Nation, welcome back to Collection Cutdown. Today's video is The Abduction Club. This movie has been in my collection for a long time and I know I've only seen it once. The story behind it is that I search far and wide for historical movies that have happy endings. So many of them are adaptations of 19th century novels where one or the other of the couple dies at the end or whatever. In my search, I came across this film, The Abduction Club. I would have seen Pride and Prejudice by this point and was, going off on a tangent trying to find the rest of the happy period pieces. Because it's a fairly obscure film, I'm fairly certain I had to order it in, and I don't remember if I had to get like a local DVD store to special order it for me or whether I ordered it from internationally myself. Naturally, I was very excited about this film, and then I watched it. I'm pretty sure I watched it with my mother and we were both just kind of on it. But I don't actually remember a great deal about the film itself. So I'm pretty sure it's about, it's based on a true story kind of, where younger sons of noblemen in the 18th century maybe kidnapped women in order to force them into marriage. And so that premise immediately kind of not my thing. I think that they did kind of get around that by having the women be okay with the kidnapping. It was kind of maybe even their idea and they talked the guys into doing this. I don't know, that's just my memory. I could be totally wrong about this and it could be like a totally skeevy premise. I like a lot of the cast in this. So Alice Evans, Sophia Myles and Matthew Rhys are all in it as the leads. And I've really liked all those people in other stuff, and I have no idea how I felt about them in this particularly, but I'm sure they were fine. The thing about this cast though is, as far as I know, none of them are Irish, and this is set in Ireland, so I don't know if they're just gonna all have English accents or if they're all going to attempt Irish accents. I'm a little bit nervous about that. You may be able to tell from my name that I have Irish heritage. I think that's all I can think to say about this one, so I'm going to dive in and see you all in 93 minutes. I was right about what it's about. So a group of younger sons form a club. The club itself, I think, has been operating in some form for 50 years, and this is kind of the new generation, and a couple of friends kidnap some sisters. It kind of goes wrong, and then they sort of go on this journey, but fall in love while they do. Obviously, it's kind of got a cringy premise. Saying it out loud, kidnapping, not a great way to start a relationship. And under normal circumstances, there'd be a real power imbalance, which is something that I'm pretty uncomfortable with. But the way they did this film, they really did a good job, I think, of mitigating the issues with that. So it's very clear that the men are gentlemen, and if the women demanded to go home, they would totally do it. But the women kind of have their own reasons for wanting to go on this journey. I wasn't uncomfortable with the relationship. I didn't feel like there was anything skeevy in either of the romances. So there's the two sisters fall in love with the two friends. I thought all four of the leads were very charming and they really carried this film. I think their charisma and chemistry and talent kind of made this as watchable as it is. I thought the script was fun and there was definitely some good dialogue and some good moments and some good scenery, but this would have been nothing without how much I enjoyed watching the characters play off each other. There were some moments that I didn't like. It's not a perfect film. For example, it got a bit cringy, particularly in the beginning, and I have a very low tolerance for cringe. And I did actually at one point have to pause this because it got too cringy for me. And it's the abduction scene where everything's going wrong. She totally saw through him, and I think that I found that quite embarrassing because he was quite clearly just out of his depth. She totally outsmarted him. And I mean, I like that. I think she was great, but it was just, I just got that feeling of, oh. I found that the cringy elements kind of dissipated as the film went on, and the characters deepened, and you got to know them more, and they got to know each other more. But yeah, in the beginning there was some moments where I was like, oh, I don't know if I can do this. Part of the cringe factor came from one of the other characters. He's in the abduction club with these two. He's so obnoxious, and yet they're sort of friends with him and sort of not. Like, you can kind of tell they tolerate him. This guy is just so toxic. He clearly has a lot of anger issues and some misogyny problems, and whenever characters or even real life people are friends with somebody who has such toxic, horrible opinions, it really makes me question them and their morals, and so even the fact that they barely tolerate this guy, he's still in their circle and they still spend a lot of time with him. I know he was there to cause conflict. It's a very common trope, but I really wish that it would just die. I don't think that there's really many redeemable rich people in the movie. Like, maybe the two sisters' father at the end. They could have had a bit more nuance with that, but it was very much like these rascally, charming younger sons. They're the true nice people. They deserve to have their daughters kidnapped because they're rich. And I mean, it's a bit silly, and they do make it very clear that these women are into these guys that kidnap them. Abduction club breaks in to take a woman, and as soon as she sees who it is, she's like, oh, it's you, Mr. Cunningham. And so anyway, that was cute. I said in the intro it was a bunch of English actors starring in this, even though it's meant to be set in Ireland, and I will admit that that was my main issue with this film, that all these apparently Irish people had English accents, and then occasionally an Irish person would show up with an actual Irish accent, and it just got distracting. And I know it's based on history, but I'm not sure that there was a reason why it couldn't have been set in England if they wanted to cast these particular people or have that particular accent. You know, younger sons are younger sons wherever you go. Maybe there was some law in England that stopped this same thing happening. It was certainly a choice. And then one of the lead guys, he pretended to be an Irish priest at one point, so he even used an Irish accent. And I mean, I'm not saying it was a great one, but it was bizarre. The highlight of the film for me was Matthew Rhys and Sophia Myles and their relationship and their bickering and sparring, because that was just really fun to watch, and I found their relationship a little bit less cringy than the other one. That worked for me more, even though I did grow to really like the other couple. Maybe I just like the enemies to lovers thing. They did a good job of like clearly being into each other while pretending they weren't type thing. It's funny that Matthew Rhys has gone on, you know, to have such a well-respected career in the Americans and such, because I remember seeing him in things like this so many years ago, and I never would have dreamed. I did notice that Sophia Myles' name is spelt wrong on the cover. It's correct in the credits at the back. Maybe this was a really cheap DVD or something. I don't think it's a knockoff. I think it's real. Liam Cunningham is also in this, and I've always liked him. I have a soft spot for him. I'm pretty sure he's Irish, and he didn't have an Irish accent in this movie. I don't know what was going on with the accents. A lot of the time I think of period dramas as being very sumptuous. I don't think that was the case with this one. There was a lot of stuff filmed outside, I guess because, you know, forests don't change in 200 or 300 years, so that was easy production design. Even the interiors were fairly sparse, and it wasn't like distractingly bad. I have seen some period dramas where they're clearly saving money on the interiors, and it does look quite weird, and we'll actually talk about one eventually. I thought they did a good job of recreating Georgian Ireland, England, whatever it was, without, you know, a huge budget. You know, I thought it was quite cleverly done in that sense. I think the script helped because obviously it's set over a few days and these people are on the run, so, you know, the costumes for the main characters didn't have to be changed a lot and didn't have to be too sumptuous, and so things like that, I think, clever choices all round. What's my verdict on The Abduction Club? Well, I really enjoyed this. A large part of that is because of the leads. As someone who is constantly and forever on the hunt for happy period dramas, it's nice to find one that's good. I don't think it was quite as good as 39 Steps, which I really enjoyed when I saw that recently, but it was still fun, and, you know, the dialogue was good, and they had good chemistry. It wasn't a perfect film. There was definitely some flaws in it. Those cringy scenes really early on that almost broke me. I'll know for next time, and I may even skip those scenes. I enjoyed this one enough to keep it, and I can see myself seeing this one again. And I think the thing that tips me over into keeping it is the knowledge that it was kind of difficult to get a hold of in the first place. So I did warn everybody that that may be a tipping point for me, and if I'm on a knife's edge, if it was difficult to find, then I'll probably keep it. If you've been enjoying my reviews, please consider liking, subscribing, commenting, doing all that sort of stuff. You'll get a notification if you subscribe when I post new videos. And I love talking to people about movies and things like that, so if you do find you want to comment, please do. Our next video is on Adam's Rib. It's our first classic on this channel, which will be great. It stars Katharine Hepburn and Spencer Tracy, and I think is a bit of a battle of the sexes. So that's gonna be a really interesting one to reassess. I will see you all for that one next time. And for now, goodbye and happy watching.